X, it needs to be on there.
That's what I thought.
I'm sorry, what would you say?
So the map standards,
Uh-huh,
right here in this appendix,
Yeah.
if it has an X, it needs to be on the preliminary plat.
okay.
And that's what watershed typically will review for, that's what I review for.
Yeah,
I mean, I have to look at the lot layouts and everything.
I printed all those off and I went through the plat as well as I could. I think the majority of the stuff is on there. But, you know, my point was, if watershed is not included,
Yeah.
then it's a moot point, because that's where all the
But they
comments are, other than yours.
They are, and I will say though, in my opinion, and I think in TRC's opinion, it is substantially complete. Now,
There's a lot
whether,
of details in there.
there are a lot, and sometimes the devil's in the details, so,
The contour lines need to match and they need to be
Yeah.
labeled properly,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, because
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, that plat is what the grading permit is gonna be drawn from.
it will eventually.
Tentatively, we've got a quorum here.
Yep,
we got-
so no mas talkie, but,
Yeah.
but I will tell you, the decision will ultimately be yours. So you guys talk amongst yourselves, ask questions, I'll try to answer them, and if I can't answer them, then.
Well, we will ask on record, I'm sure.
Yeah.
uh,
I think we're gonna lean on you significantly tonight for some.
You know, it's, I'll do what I can, but
Yeah, no, I know.
Well,
at the end of the day, different staff review
only
different
if we
parts
make
of
a
the ordinance.
decision.
I can't answer
This
for,
X.
Right.
you know, Brett
No.
Allen or for Kevin Larson where they're at on watershed, I just, I can't.
We might have been all right, but I'd rather others' questions be in.
Yeah, all right.
You did make it back.
I did, yes.
Oh,
Even stopped at the pharmacy and got,
I don't know about you guys, but this is
why is this light not on?
this seems
The only one that's not on the motion.
but anyway. I guess I'm right because I had a dinner party and I'm left early because of this meeting.
I drove 45 minutes to come here, if that makes you. After working 43 hours in 3 days.
Gosh. Sorry, Justin.
I had a meeting Tuesday night, I had a meeting last night, and I had a meeting tonight. And I had a meeting last week.
And you're salaried, right?
Technically, I am, but I'm considered a non-exempt employee, so I am able to get overtime. But they don't like to pay overtime,
Right.
so then we have to cut back our hours. Make sure they don't,
Okay, so,
you know how it works.
So you get, what is it, in lieu of overtime, you get time off sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't know if how is that supposed to work?
It's just,
Doesn't the federal labor law says after a certain amount of hours, you get overtime?
after 40, I think, in a week period of time.
Uh,
But the, and I do get a little bit of overtime, it's sometimes unavoidable, like, we're gonna be down to 2 planters next week Friday. We'll have 5 open spots and only 2 filled spots.
In somewhere in the discussions, I heard Les Egger died?
He did? I told you that.
Yeah. I'm surprised, he was a young man.
I think he had a heart attack on the job.
Oh,
so here's the.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's how he died.
Yeah, I printed.
Did you print it all?
Well, I don't think I printed
That's
it in
terrible.
format, but,
Yeah, I just did it in landscape.
It's a stressful
Show
job.
up on the-
but the preliminary plan is the second column.
I was just thinking, of, you know, in the whole thing, I was thinking, Les.
I blame Stokesdale.
And just like,
Who wouldn't have any stress if you guys didn't give it to
so if it's on
Not you guys
it's on
specifically,
that plat. And this is-
Well, Les,
certain employers.
I met Les when the Stokesdale Planning Board first started up. Les was the
I know
planner
that's not on there.
in those very first meetings, the initial
That's
meetings.
not
This
on
is a smart cookie,
That's not
Yeah.
on
very smart. I have to go based on what I've seen in his reports, I never met him,
there.
but
For the most part,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the stuff is on,
Is in there.
is in there.
So how many? Okay.
Mason, do you know if our
fifth member's gonna be here?
Andrea said she will be, so. Their word for it.
Well, we start 7:00, just like usual.
You got a quorum, so.
Well, and Chuck is coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he called me at 5:00, he'll be here. He had to
He's
deal-
got his timing down pretty good.
He had to deal with council, so that can be a chore sometimes.
Now I have another question. This is for the general folk. Does anybody know who Jim Flint is? He's the brother of John Flint, who used to be on town council.
I don't.
Do you, T?
I do not know, but I know that that property up there across from you
Uh-huh.
that's for sale was John's brother's property.
Right, Jim Flint.
Is, okay, well, he passed away.
He did pass away.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding. That's why it's being sold.
Because I had, when he was sick, I took my tractor over there and bush hogged his front yard for him. Because it was just full of that
Stuff.
stuff.
Ramble.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanna drive your tractor down to Burlington, I could use some bush hogging behind me.
No way, sir.
There's a guy in the forest behind me that does not keep it up.
The problem with bush hogging unknown fields is the things you run into or run
Oh,
out.
there's plenty of tires and wheelbarrows and
Oh, yeah.
wood posts and all kinds of stuff.
I bush hogged a field for an acquaintance, kind of as a friend there. I wasn't for any money. I was driving around. Then I see this movement in the grass. I'm thinking, oh, it's a snake. But then it wasn't a snake. It was a barbed wire fence, and it was wrapped around my bush hog. I spent hours cutting that out of the bush hog.
Oh my gosh.
We have copperheads in our yard.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a snake.
We've got black snakes, but
Well, that's what I need. I need to relocate one of those into my yard so
Yeah.
that it'll eat the copperhead.
Yeah.
we had,
Andrea.
we had one get in a birdhouse.
Yeah,
Mm.
well.
My wife wasn't real crazy.
I bet she
about
wasn't pleased with that, but, you know, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but.
Yeah, I will be moving the birdhouse away from the house
There you
though
go.
next year.
Yeah, yeah, we found a black rat snake skeleton under our house, so
Oh.
there was fine mice or rats or whatever
Yeah.
under there, but could never get back out, so we probably starved to death.
Well, I got another bush hogging story. I was bush hogging the field, and there was this bush, and I was about to cut it over, and then I saw a snake in there. It was a black snake. Well, I had my gloves on. I reached over, I grabbed the snake around its head, and then I said, what am I going to do with him now? Because he's now wrapped around my arm.
Just moving somewhere else.
Well, I brought him home,
Yes,
and I said, get them chipmunks.
I need a snake. I can't get one from a pet store because it'd be like releasing an animal that has no idea what it's doing out in the
Yeah.
wild. So that would be inhumane. But if I ever find one, I'm bringing it home and I'm gonna release it.
That's the way to do
Did y'all
it.
see the snake they found on the bar in Battleground?
Mr.
The
Renfro,
what?
There was,
Oh, where it was up in that car?
it was like a pipe, it was a bow or a pipe, it was like.
Huge snake.
Where was this? Snake where?
It was on Battleground. It was like up in a Honda CRV.
It
Yeah,
was
it's
so
up,
far.
it's
Where was
far.
Yeah.
In Greensboro.
Yeah.
Oh, it was big. It was his big ring.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
it was
ain't-
massive.
Yeah, police came and got it.
Python. It
Got
was-
adopted, so somebody took it home.
Got loose.
Wow.
Burmese python.
Yeesh.
Well, Mr. Winfield, did you read that book? It was a pretty good one.
I've not read it
Clancy.
yet. I've not got
Clancy
to
movie,
it yet.
the Clancy book.
How was
So
it?
did you
It
do
was
your
good.
homework?
Good?
I've looked at it, but
That's still on my bookshelf to finish up. On my
I
list.
know what I don't know, so I'm still, Probably no
James
leak,
Patterson,
because-
Crichton,
I've read everything on email and
Michael, because he's passed, but his son, I believe,
so
James
it's- there's still
Patterson.
some things that are
It's about like a volcano or
not
something like that.
settled.
That always keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Yes.
Tom Clancy's good at that too.
Well, I had never ridden any of his books before. I've seen some of the movies. So I borrowed a Tom Clancy movie, a book from the library. I liked it, so I took another one.
I like the Da Vinci Code series.
The what
The
one?
Da Vinci Code,
Uh-huh.
those are excellent. All but one are really, really good. Robert Langdon. I didn't read those to you, That's really good.
I've got 7 o'clock, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next thing, review and adopt the agenda for tonight, August 22nd, 2024. Any questions or discussion?
Nope.
None for me.
One motion?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda for tonight.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Number 3, approval of the minutes of July 25th, 2024, regular town planning board minutes. Any questions or comments?
None here.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 25th, 2024.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Old business items, major subdivision preliminary plat case 23-06-SUB-00152, Woodfield Heights. This parcel is located at 7884 ZZ Eversfield Road. It is zoned RS30, single-family residential, and it's located at the northern boundary of the intersection of Eversfield Road and Suffield Road, Guilford County Tax Parcel 150412. This is a request for approval of the major subdivision preliminary plat, which is effectively the lot layout and road layout. The water line plans and other associated plans and permits are being reviewed by county staff and the town's engineering consultant. The request is for 22 lots on 22.692 acres. The site is shown to be served by private septic system and public water. We would like to open this for discussion. Mr. Schneider, can you present the TRC?
Yeah, so at the July 9th Technical Review Committee meeting, the TRC members gave the engineer for the project the outstanding comments at the time. Then staff received a subsequent resubmittal of the plat on July 10th. Additional staff comments were noted when the review was completed on July 24th, and those comments are in your packets. Staff is recommending approval, subject to the project designer satisfying all the outstanding review comments, obtaining any required permits prior to construction, which is typical practice. And these comments are included with the report in your agenda packets. And just one thing to note, I know there were some concerns about the drainage off-site. I will just note that those are typically reviewed during the construction drawing phase rather than during the preliminary plat phase. There are certain aspects of drainage that are reviewed, such as easement locations and things like that. You know, making sure easements are centered over proposed pipes and things like that. But The actual sizing of the pipes, location of the pipes, and other things are partially dependent on the construction drawings, which are reviewed by NCDOT within the public right-of-way or proposed public right-of-way, and then county staff, engineering, watershed. And then once the construction drawings are approved, then at that point, the applicant can achieve a soil erosion and sedimentation control approval, and then at that point can begin construction. So that's just kind of an outline of what the general process is. So this is the first step in that process to get the lot layout established, to satisfy the map standards for the watershed requirements, and then to establish the road locations for NCDOT.
Any questions? I'd like to open it for discussion from the board.
I'd like to just open it up, if we can, to any public comment, pro or against. And I don't know if we need a formal motion to do that, but,
Mr.
No,
Winfrey.
that's part of our meeting as
Okay.
usual.
so,
I think it'd be appropriate, it's not per se a public hearing, we haven't advertised a public hearing, but if you wanted to receive some input from the public or from the applicant, either one, I
Yeah.
think it'd be appropriate to do that if you want to.
okay. So I guess if anybody does want to comment, would they need to submit their name to Mason? I don't know if maybe we don't even have anybody that wants to add any,
There's a couple
Comment.
folks here. Does any of y'all want to?
I'm not going to, I'm the applicant.
Okay.
I believe Bill's online.
Bill's online.
Okay. Does he have anything to say, Mason?
He should be listening right now.
Yeah, I don't have any, this is Bill Rico. I don't have anything to add, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions anybody else may have.
Okay.
thank
Fair
you.
enough. Thank you.
One question, I guess, that may need clarification from Mr. Greco. The plans that were delivered here earlier this week, my understanding is those have not been reviewed by TRC, but are they in response to comments that TRC had made to the previous version of the plans? In other words, I think the board's considering plans, I think that were delivered up here, my understanding was earlier this week. Is that correct, Mason?
Sorry.
Are the plans we're considering, are those the ones that were delivered up here earlier this week with Mr. Greco?
The ones that you're
Yes.
considering are the ones that
Yes.
are in the packet, I believe.
I don't think you can consider it if it hasn't been submitted to the county for review. I think the July 10th one is the official submittal at this point.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make sure we're clear about which plans we're considering. Are we considering the ones that Mr. Greco delivered earlier this week, or are we considering the ones from July 10th, I guess? Was it 10th, was that the submittal date? Okay.
The ones that are in our packet,
Right.
rather than the one that's on the table.
So let me ask a question, Mr. Winfrey. And I'm asking legal advice, what you're telling the board is that we cannot consider the plans that were dropped off earlier this week in this purpose of this meeting.
I think that's right, because I think the ones that were submitted by, again, the ordinance suggests review by TRC before review by you, and the ones that are delivered earlier this week here have not been reviewed
By the
by
TRC.
TRC, is my understanding.
That's incorrect.
Yeah.
That's incorrect. So the TRC, the plan that TRC reviewed is what is in your packet. It's got comments, that are in blue, and it's got some comments that are in red.
Right.
The two comments that are in red pertain to the preliminary plat, so that is what they have reviewed. What is in your hands in full size is we've already addressed those two comments. And Justin
that answers one of the questions I had, which was what material differences are there between what was submitted earlier in July versus what we received earlier this week? And it sounds like it's two main differences that have been addressed from the previous version. Is that correct? Okay.
Mr. Greco, can you tell us what those two things were?
One of them was a minimum building line on lot number 15. If you look at the version that's in your packet,
Is that back corner lot?
building line is different than what's in front of you, like the comment that Justin had. The other thing is over on the west side, drawing over near my seal, where he wanted revision dates added. Now, we put that here on title block.
Okay. Yep.
So I'm just asking for clarification. This is for, I guess, for you, Mr. Winfrey, but also for Mr. Schneider, if you can speak to this in some, at least in some aspect, maybe not in total. But it sounds like from what I'm reading here, in the first paragraph, which Mr. Sumner read, there's a statement that says, and this is, I don't think this is numbered, but this is under the, I think it's under the county's, is that right? Is that what the county prepared, or is that something that the town reprinted based on staff comments? Or is it just the staff comments and recommendation that are from the county?
In the staff report?
Yeah, that first paragraph is what I'd like to call attention to. Right under the title of the case that we're reviewing, where it starts with "this parcel is located" and gives the address.
Yeah, that's the background information on the
Okay.
subdivision, so that's what we write.
That's
basically to
what
give
the
it back.
county prepared, okay. So in that opening paragraph there's a statement that says, "This is a request for approval of the major subdivision preliminary plat," and then comma, "which is effectively the lot layout and road layout." I guess my question is the word effectively. Is there anything else that we need to be considering besides those two things?
So everything that's required in the map standards in the appendix of Stokesdale's development ordinance that has an X that would be applicable to this site would be part of that preliminary plan.
Okay,
And if you look, there's a heading in that table that says preliminary plan. And then underneath, anything with an X would typically be required unless it's not applicable. And that's usually what staff will review, TRC staff, in addition to our technical requirements such as lot dimensions and things like that. But we use the things in the map standards to help us with that review to make sure that we have the information that we need to be able to make an informed decision on the preliminary plat.
and has the county had a chance to review that for the required
Yeah, so this.
criteria?
So initially it went to the technical review committee, and then we did have the subsequent resubmittal that we reviewed, which would have been the July 10th version, which is in your packets. And then there were additional comments because that was the first time they'd seen the watershed development plan. So most of the comments are centered around watersheds review. I assume Bill is working with either Kevin Larson or Brett Gatlin to get those issues resolved. And they will base their comments on the environmental section of the ordinance as well as those map standards, so. And just like I would base my comments on the map standards and the zoning and subdivision standards that are in the ordinance, so. Without having looked at this plan, reviewed it in any detail, I can't say whether Bill has met every requirement that there is for zoning, but I would assume, since my comments were so minor from the last review comments, that they're probably substantially correct to the point where we are comfortable with it going forward, with approval contingent upon meeting any of the rest of watershed's requirements.
Right,
And then they will again have to review it Subsequently, once this preliminary plat has gone and been given the okay by everybody, to get it forward towards construction drawings, and that's where they'll really dig in. And they'll be looking at every pipe size, and they'll be looking at, you know, flow rates and
Right.
calculations and everything else, so.
Okay.
Does that more than answer your question, hopefully?
It does, thank you, that's helpful. And Mr. Winfrey, on the, I guess from an ordinance standpoint or legal standpoint, is there anything there that we need to pay close attention to that you can
Yeah,
call
so,
out?
Well, first off, I guess it sounds as though the staff is satisfied that the plans that were submitted contained everything that was required for this plat. Some of these requirements, for example, some deal with watershed critical areas, which doesn't apply, railroad lines, which don't apply. I mean, it's things that, there are many portions of this that don't apply.
Sure.
And the staff, it sounds to me as if they're satisfied that what is required was submitted.
Or substantially complete. I don't know if it's 100%, you know, every single item is on there, but it's substantially complete to the point where I think staff is comfortable with it moving forward towards the final review to get it, you know, approved so that we can move on to construction drawings.
Okay,
So at this point, I think which you're certainly welcome, and I could pass some more of these around if you want to look at the changes. I think there were two minor changes that Mr. Greco pointed out. There was lot 15, and there was a change to the block, I think. Are those the only changes? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So I think the options, you're certainly welcome to review this. This is maybe more legible to you than the ones you're struggling with the magnifying glass to read. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is for you to have a chance to review this, and then the options would be either conditional approval, which is what staff is recommending based upon their satisfying TRC's requirements. Outright approval, which I think might be a problem if there are still things to be addressed. Denial or continuance, if you wanted to do. I think those are the four choices that the board has at this point.
okay, thank you.
I've got
Go ahead, Chris.
I've got a question, and I'm gonna direct it to that side of the room. I don't know if it's to Mr. Winfrey or to Mr. Snyder, but if there is a conditional approval, if I read the ordinance correctly, it says that the applicant is given 60 days to kind of get T's crossed, I's dotted, and at the end of 60 days, it becomes a denial. And what I would like to understand is how does that check and balance happen? Because I feel like we're letting go of it for somebody else to approve, and we have a job to do, and I just want to make sure that I understand how that happens.
I don't know, it's never happened, so I don't know.
It's never happened that nobody's,
Not that they haven't resubmitted in 60 days.
is it resubmitted or have everything corrected?
I don't know. Let's see what the ordinance says. Much as
So the process then, Mr. Snyder, is upon a conditional approval, then the comments would need to be addressed per se and in accordance with the conditional approval. That would be done to TRC,
yes.
and it could be multiple times if correction, like it already has been.
Yeah.
It could be
and-
done multiple times within that 60-day period.
Yeah, typically we have about a 2-week turnaround, and then, you know, they might have another week or two to get all the comments switched and come back. And, you know, that could happen easily twice within 60 days. Trying to find that section that you're referring to. I've read it before, but I don't have it
It's
memorized.
56-5, that helps.
It does.
There's 56.5, I believe.
department shall review the revised plat. If it meets all the approval conditions and is otherwise substantially unaltered, shall signify in the plat the change from conditional approval to approval. If the plat's not revised within 60 days to meet the conditions, or the applicant notifies that they're unwilling to revise the plat, then it's deemed denied. I read that as they just need to revise it within 60 days, not necessarily it's gotta be 100% perfect after 60 days, but we need to see something back that says they're making an effort towards compliance, I think is how I would read that, but you get paid the big bucks.
Let me ask one more question with regard to clarification. So we're looking at this Appendix 2, requirements for the preliminary plan. And every item that has an X by it is required to be in the preliminary plan,
If applicable,
if applicable.
correct.
Okay, so there's a number of things undoubtedly that would not be applicable in this particular
That is correct.
situation. Terminology-wise, there's a couple that may be on the plat that don't show in this verbiage. I was looking at total built-upon area shown with the total number of acres and percentage of total area noted. We're looking at 22 lots on approximately 22 plus acres. Is that,
So that's not necessarily built upon area.
Correct.
Built upon area is gonna be your roads and things like that, but there aren't any roads at this point.
Right.
So it'd be proposed, which will happen in the watershed development plan and calculations.
okay,
So it's not something typically would be on a preliminary plat. But I will tell you, it's a low-density development, so they don't have to treat the storm. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
another question, the average percentage of slope prior to development? I mean, that's gonna be shown on the contour lines.
Yeah, so typically there's existing and proposed contours. Again, those will typically find their way onto the soil erosion sedimentation control plans and the grading plans as opposed to on the preliminary plat sheet.
Okay, and one other one, well, actually, these two are kind of related. Permanent runoff control structures.
Yeah, so Bill, I'll let you answer that better. We're getting a little bit outside of my knowledge base here.
And the one that goes with that is maintain responsibility note for permanent runoff control structures when used.
It appears he is.
I can answer that. That normally comes into play.
I'm still here. I don't know if I've got a bad internet connection, and this is just general information. I don't know if it's possible I have a bad internet connection. I think you guys are kind of drifting in and out away from your microphone. Sometimes it's perfectly clear, and then other times it's kind of, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
As to, permanent runoff control structures, we do not have it. Some of those things are not gonna apply. We don't have a permanent stormwater device. That's typically a biocell or a sand filter or a stormwater detention pond.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I thought. I just want to make sure, so since I haven't seen any construction drawings, it's hard for me to know. But there's no BMP or anything either, so.
No, sir. So what you're gonna see, this is just general information, 99.99999% of the time in any part of Guilford County that does not have water and sewer, you're gonna be developing that under the low-density option, which is defined in the ordinance. So it's either 24% built upon or it's less than a certain number of dwelling units per acre. So essentially, everything we do in Stokesdale from a residential perspective is low density. So you kind of never get a stormwater pond in a subdivision. You never get a biocell. Now, that may not be the case on commercial development.
Correct.
But with residential, it's always low density and you're never gonna see it. So none of the plans you're getting are gonna have 99% of the time any kind of permanent devices.
okay. Thank you, Bill.
And if I could, while I'm talking, one thing on preliminary plats and the conditional approval question, I didn't really hear everything you guys were saying. One of the things you're doing with conditional approval
Yeah, or put it another way, if you give conditional approval, the only changes that can be made are ones that address TRC's issues. They can't go back and, make other changes that weren't required by TRC. Can you hear me, Bill?
No, I hear you now, Greg.
Okay.
I think it's, we turn away.
Yeah, when you turn to talk to us.
Okay, good.
All right, I'd like a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bill Greco,
Yes, sir.
in your letter to us, you've talked about the conveyance of the water instead of being dumped. This or any other project is not allowed to dump water on adjacent properties. You are required to provide for appropriately sized conveyance measures with dispersed flow at appropriate rates. What are the appropriate rates that you've figured out for the easement at the cul-de-sac and then down at the lower end of the, I guess it's the southern end of where the road is?
So in the ordinance, and I believe it's in five, I'm not sure exactly, it's in five in the easements, Article 5. Once you have a contributing drainage area of a certain size, that dictates the size of the drainage easement. So a drainage area or drainage basin of 0 to 2 acres, no easement's required. From 2 to 6 acres, you're required to have a 30-foot wide easement, and from 6 to 25, you're required to have a 60-foot easement. So that's just kind of globally on drainage easements. Anytime water leaves a DOT right-of-way, it must be in a drainage easement as it leaves the right-of-way. So that determines size, and flows are also a part of that. There's a chart in the ordinance that shows that. I don't have my ordinance open, but I can probably pop to it pretty fast.
Does anybody up here want to look at the big map before?
Yeah, the big map shows a 30-foot drainage easement at
Right.
over lot 16.
I assume, Bill, that you are looking at the flow that would be handled by a 30-foot easement then, and also, let's see, what is this one now? Yeah, 30-foot drainage easement.
You might get close to the microphone. I didn't hear where you said. I heard you say I assume.
I assume that you're looking up how much water is coming through on a 30-foot drainage easement.
Yes, sir. So if you look at, 5-13.7 drainage. What most of the ordinances have done is and this is kind of globally across North Carolina, they've taken away a lot of the ambiguity and a lot of the, you can split hairs on drainage till the end of your life. So these ordinances say, this many acres, or they say this many cubic feet per second. So a 30-foot drainage easement per Stokesdale ordinance looks to be like 5 to 17 CFS. And then a 30, that's a 30. And a 60-foot drainage easement, you're talking 17 to 70 CFS, which is cubic feet per second. So that's kind of a velocity measurement there. Velocity is important as it relates to scour. If you think of walking out into the lawn there in Town Hall, holding your fire hose, going to the trail, that's what that's all about, big picture class. When I talk about dispersed flow, you can certainly use a fire hose to water the lawn there in Town control your runoff, keep it on your property. You know, the big rule of thumb there is no physical mud leaving the property. Dirty water's okay, turbid water, cloudy water's fine, but if your neighboring property's having to shovel up mud and they can put it in the wheelbarrow, that's not good. That's why you have erosion control drainage plans as a kind of a further check and balance during construction.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Very well.
So maybe just explain how they review at the next step. Go ahead, as long as you agree with it.
Any more questions or comments from the board? Or anybody at this point? Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this plat, this preliminary plat, conditionally, in accordance with staff recommendation, and I'll just read from their quote here. Subject to the project designer satisfying all outstanding review comments and obtaining any required permits prior to construction.
Before you did that, you might want to ask if there's any comments from the public before we
did.
do that. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So, do I need to rephrase that, or is that good the way I've phrased it? Okay.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
I guess any discussion, I guess.
Any discussion? T?
I think my questions are answered.
Yeah, I'm good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. Moving on to announcements. Planning board announcements. The next regular Stokesdale Town Council meeting will be held on Thursday, September 12th, 2024, at 7 p.m. inside the Stokesdale Town Hall Council Chambers, located at 8325 Angel Pardue Road, Stokesdale, North Carolina. The next regular Stokesdale Town Planning Board meeting will be held on Thursday, September 26th, at 7 p.m. inside the Stokesdale Town Hall Council Chambers, located right here at 8325 Angel Pardue Road, Stokesdale, North Carolina. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
All right. We need to get you a gavel, Chris. Meeting stands adjourned.
It's
Oh,
just
there
for
it is.
fun, and thing needs a ride around the block every now and then.
He's got one. I didn't notice that.
All right.
That's the headbanger.